preamble on LinkedIn, on Facebook and YouTube as we wait for LinkedIn to connect. And that is how it goes. LinkedIn, for whatever reason, with Riverside, takes a little bit of a minute or probably about a half to connect. So please bear with me. Have a beverage or sip your beverage if you have one. Any beverage will do. Or you can eat your lunch. You know, it is lunchtime. Have a snack and get ready. Uh, have an open mind. I'm going to explore with you today. And when we get to our topic, I think it'll be interesting. Okay, welcome everyone to Career Talk with Wes, live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. We just recently added YouTube. And this is a show about all things career. I do this show every day at noon live, and then you will catch it if you want to on demand on the same platforms. I'm going to open the chat, so you'll have that available. If you do chat with me live, I will see it. And if you chat with me on demand, I will see it, so we can talk there as well. And I welcome your comments, questions, thoughts, concerns, critique, anything you want to say here, you can say. I mean this to be a very open forum about all things career through this lens. I put everything through the lens, or have a foundation of looking to build awareness. And what I always say is awareness brings change, and you can't change what you can't see. So that's always the premise that I go into everything with. It doesn't always apply directly and immediately, but with that underpinning, we're looking to make sure that we have as much, oh geez, I did something incorrect. Hold on, folks. Boy, too bad I had to start and restart, but I'm gonna have to do that. It was a LinkedIn problem. Give me a second, folks. And now it'll work. Sorry, we're gonna restart. You're getting double the show for the same money that you didn't pay. Welcome everyone. Wait, sorry. Welcome everyone to Career Talk with Wes. I am your host, Wes Ennert, and we do this show every day live at noon Eastern, every weekday that is, on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Just recently added YouTube there. And the show is meant to be a free, open space for us to talk about all things career. And everything that I talk about in a career context is really the same way that I do my career coaching and consulting, which is my main function for vocation. And it's basing everything on building awareness. Now, there are lots of practical things we may want to accomplish in the realm of career, but to have a foundation of wanting to build awareness so that we can be fully aware of all the chess pieces on the board and which one of those we are and what we are up to and what others are up to and everything that we can be fully aware of. The more fully aware we are of what's in front of us and what's within, the more control we'll have over our outcomes. And that's ultimately the goal. You likely have career goals, and to control or at least influence those outcomes, we need to see as much as we can. I always say awareness brings change, and that you cannot change what you cannot see. So that's the premise. I have my chat open, so you know, if you want to put your comments, questions, thoughts, concerns, critique, nasty notes, pleasant notes, all of it is welcome. This is very open forum here. And the topic, I'll just get right to it today. The topic itself for today is about building, in particular, self-awareness. Because when I say raise awareness, I am talking about raising awareness of others, raising awareness of the situation. I just kind of went through that. But today, I really want to give you guys more of what I mean when I say building self-awareness, and what are maybe some of the ways, and I'll continue to cover lots of ways that you can build a self-awareness, and there are many. So today I'll just talk about one, and I'd love to know if you've considered this. So this would be a great thing to let me know in the chat if you've tried anything like this. You don't have to give me your results, but I would love to know that you've tried this, or if you have something better, or just different. I'd love to hear about it. So what I'm looking at today is I'll just raise it as a question first. Have you ever paused to ask yourself how people treat you when they're around you and how they act when they're around you as a tool of gaining self-awareness? Now, I do realize when you ask that question, how do people behave around me? And what we're looking for there is trends. We're not really looking for one-offs. If you are trying to diagnose a particular relationship, yes, it can be very helpful for you to ask yourself what's going on with the behavior in that particular relationship. But think of this more like, let me see if there are trends. Are there trends that I see from person to person consistently that tell me, there's a certain way that people either approach me, the way they speak around me, the body language they use around me, in different settings, right? That would it would matter a lot in those settings. I'm going to go through a few, in fact. Um, but let me just ask this first. As you start to imagine different settings that you're in where you might want to say, how am I affecting other people? Um, I'm going to ask you about colleagues, right? You may be in business in some way that the people you deal with you think of as colleagues, or customers, partners, the people you exchange with, vendors, investors, all the kinds of colleagues you might think of, and coworkers, right? The people that just sit next to you or do the work that you do with you. Um, Supervisors or managers, people where the relationship is they manage downward in the chain of authority. You manage upward in the chain of authority, which is a whole another topic I've gotten to and we'll get to again. Managing up, important topic. But that relationship, your supervisors, your managers, those above you, the board above you, direct reports, those that you manage, the team that you manage, if you do, um, people that just know you, people that know you, and I mean that. How are the people that really know you? How do they behave around you? Because that's a special one. And when I say know you, I mean they've seen you at your worst, they've seen you at your best. They've seen you for a long, long time. They have a special. They hold some deeper, perhaps more interesting, or they hold more data. Let's just put it that way. They hold more data about you that would help you to gain self-awareness of how you essentially show up. This is what we're looking for. We're looking to find objective data. Now, let me catch that while I say that word, objective data. Clearly what I'm referring to isn't objective data, it's subjective data. It's subject to the viewpoint of the people I'm suggesting you get the data from. If you watch someone's body language when you're in the room in a meeting with them and the meeting is a one-on-one, that's going to give you data, some data about yourself, and especially if it's a pattern, you meet with three different people and you notice similar body language between the three different people. That's a pattern of data that will be helpful for you to inspect for pieces of possible self-awareness. But I was incorrect in referring to that as objective. That would be subjective data, right? Subject to those people. But it adds a layer of possible objectivity in this sense. It's not coming from you. So at least you get out of yourself, which would be truly the most subjective viewpoint is your own. You have the most challenging job in viewing yourself versus other people viewing you. They will view you with much greater ease in terms of being able to view you objectively than yourself. We all have the hardest time viewing ourselves objectively. So in that way, I'm saying the data from others is certainly more objective than our own. Or at least that would be the tendency. And others, I said the people that know you. So in that area, friends, family, they certainly all count. And I had mentioned customers. So there's a group, we go over again, colleagues, coworkers, supervisors and managers, or direct reports of you, people that you know or who know you really well, friends, family, and customers. So let's just take those as some ideas. Start thinking, as I'm saying, unless maybe hopefully you're already there, thinking about the ways, the patterns that you notice of behavior and activity on their end. So let's get a little closer to that. Here's a couple of questions to help with that. Here's one way to look at it. And I mean the next thing I'm going to say both in a verbal sense and in a physical sense, and perhaps any sense of the word. Do people tend to move toward you? Think about that literally. Think about whether they tend to move literally towards you, closer in physical distance, or move away, which we'll get to next. Or for the matter of, if not physically, in the sense of being close to you, creating a bond. Do they tend to move toward you and look to bond? Do they tend to move towards you in ideas? You know, in other words, when you present yourself and they present their position in something, do they tend to align themselves with you, or again get nearer to you in some way, nearer to your thinking, nearer to your values? This is another huge one. Um, or do they move away from you? And now I'm saying, when you're thinking about patterns, especially if you're just now trying to look over the last week, maybe what do the patterns look like? It's Friday, and you're looking back through the week and you're saying, what patterns have I seen this week? Have I noticed any kind of collection of data displayed by more than one person that is movement away from me? And in what context was that? And what about moving towards you? People have moved towards you. And in what context did that happen? Again, physically or spiritually, or in a sense of bonding or a sense of connecting, in any possible way, either moving towards you or moving away from you. And what's the insight there? Obvious. One of the things we can say about motivation is people move towards pleasure and away from pain. So this is a clue, obviously. And what do they say to you? So patterns again, looking for patterns, things that people show a pattern in saying to you. I'm trying to think of for instance here. Let's just say most people might say to you, no, no, that's okay. Like if you offer to help them, no, 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 that's okay. If that's a pattern, and it looks like a pattern to you, then there might be something that could be revealed in that about you, that you might possibly gain self-awareness. If I offer to help and people seem to have a pattern of not wanting to take me up on that help, now look, that could have zero to do with you, I understand that, but I'm coming up with something top of my head that might be a piece of data you could use, especially if you found it to be profound. And I'm going to say this, I might as well say it now before I forget to say it to you. What I'm suggesting you look for here are things that you find profound in trends of the way people are acting or speaking or behaving around you, in terms of what may appear to be possible reflections of how you're presenting yourself, how you're showing up. And the places to look for these things, when I say profound to you, are especially in the places where they got your attention, like a moment that got your attention. Maybe it got your attention because it was uncomfortable. So think of the uncomfortable moments especially. That's really where clues are likely to be about self-awareness. If you were uncomfortable, which by the way can be positive or negative, it doesn't have to be necessarily negative if that's what you were thinking. People being where your sense of the situation was discomfort. And again, it's a trend. It didn't just happen on a one-off. It was more than once with the person, or it was more than one person. Or things that sort of rubbed you the wrong way. So that might cause you a little frustration, or cause you a little anger, or to lose your patience. That could be another clue if you're seeing a pattern of a reaction in other people where whatever they're doing, the feeling for you is that you're becoming impatient or frustrated with this response from them. These are the ones that sort of are potent, in the sense that if they're getting, so to speak, under your skin, if these moments where people are perceiving you in whatever ways they're perceiving you, if they're getting your attention in terms of emotions, you're experiencing emotions regarding their reactions, that's a clue. That's a flag. I don't know if we want to call it a red flag, but it's a flag that says might be something there to look at. Uh, I'm gonna get to. I want to talk about why we might do it this way rather than the a few other ways I can think of. But let me just get through one more piece of this. Um, uh, just body language. Let's just talk about body language. And this is again in the area of things you might really notice that might stick with you, moments. So in terms of body language, or let me, I'm sorry, just that I want to make the point of looking for body language. Don't just look for things that are said, but facial gestures that caught your attention. That was interesting. Or it's interesting when I tend to offer myself up in this way or make this kind of point, which is typical of me. I notice a little bit of a trend of people reacting with this particular face gesture or this particular move, say a physical body language of moving back, as I said, distance, or this, right? If you notice a lot of this in your interactions, not you, but the other person doing a lot of this, I would say that has meaning. I'm not going to tell you what meaning it has at the moment because I don't know. But I'm saying this is a clue. What's going on here that people do this, which would be protecting themselves. This is one version of saying I'm not all in here. I'm not open. I'm not willing to buy into what you're saying just yet, or it's a little intimidating or frightening for me. Or also notice if they're shrinking down in when around you, and that's a pattern. Why are they shrinking down? Or the opposite, are they kind of doing the I'm giant, I'm big, like, or more this sort of any posturing that's kind of like, something that would be them expressing some form of dominance, like a posture. You can do a little quick study on Google about body language and what it means, but people can present dominant postures. And I wouldn't call leaning forward a dominant posture. That would call that interested. So you've got someone's attention. There's some respect and interest going on there. Is that going on? And does that tell you something about yourself in terms of a pattern? Are people leaning in to listen, asking you a lot of questions? There's another one. Or are they asking you no questions? There's a huge clue. Are people running a trend and does it surprise you or stick with you a bit that they don't ask you questions? And are you a person who would have lots of answers, helpful, useful answers, or wishing they would ask questions so things could be clear? And are they not asking questions? Huge clue that this is something you may want to take a look at. What part am I playing that might be causing other people to feel better not ask questions? Or there's no point in asking questions, which would be, a different problem, but just as damaging. So if people don't want to ask you questions, that's not a favorable position for many people to be in. Most people, if people are asking you questions, then these send signals that you're open, that you're adaptable, that you're welcoming, that it's safe around you. These are the kinds of things, by the way. We're not going to have time to go into all the kinds of things, but I'll touch on that for a moment. And then I'm going to go back and say, why would I use this method? Why do I recommend this method? But for a moment, let me throw out a few things that would say, what are we looking for here? If you're figuring, yeah, I will pay attention to how people are showing up in front of me and see if there are patterns. What might we be finding out by doing that? Might we find out that people are intimidated by us? Is that what we want? That's a reasonable question too, right? Because if it's what we want, then well, good. But if it's not what you want, then that's something that's really good to be aware of, so you can start finding out what you might want to do about that. Are people finding you? Are people talking around you? Are they talking around you to the degree that you're talking? So this can go both ways. Are they talking in a typical conversation that you have with the person? Are they talking as much as you're talking? Are they talking notably less than you're talking? Are they talking notably more than you're talking? These would be clues that would all mean something valuable. And if they were talking uh, excessively more than you are, as a pattern, not one person, not one time, as a pattern, if they're talking excessively more than you are, this might be a suggestion that you have created a very safe space. This could be a good thing. On the other hand, it could mean that you have not created good boundaries. If this is a pattern and you find, this, I seem to be like a microphone. People just look at me and start talking. And if that's not working for you, it could very well be that you're showing up in such a way that you're not creating a boundary, or at least not creating the boundary you want to create. This is infinite where I am right now, where I'm saying, what could we find out by these observations? Infinite. Um, I probably will explore this more, just so we could go into more of these things. But I think what I'm going to do is move on just to really finish this out by saying, why this way? Why suggest gaining information about self, gaining self-awareness this way? I'll just tell you a few possible reasons. You may be thinking, why not just ask for feedback? Why not just do a 360? Why not just shoot an email out to everyone? And by the way, these are all great ideas. Why not, find a mechanism, either sending an email to 10 people and saying, tell me when I'm at my best, tell me when I'm at my worst, tell me what I do really well, tell me what I'm not doing really well. You can do things like that, and it's a great idea. This is 100% a great idea. But what you do have with that is some subjectivity in those replies. So people have a chance to think through any feedback they offer you. And in doing so, they can censor it, they can alter it. So in other words, let's just say you asked for feedback from someone and you were hoping for, very honest, authentic, genuine feedback. And they said to you something that um, they said to you, whatever feedback they gave you, or they wrote it, or however you asked for it. But for them, they did not feel safe, regardless of the method. They didn't feel safe, so they weren't truthful. Or they have an idea of their interactions with you, but they're not able to articulate, they're not able to bring it from the sort of sensations and feelings they get around you and turning that into words and concepts. That could very well be because that's a question that has to do with their self-awareness. They could just be offering you up something that they feel in their reaction, but they haven't interpreted yet. It could be completely about them, in other words. And you're looking for feedback about yourself, and they're giving you something which really 100% about them. These are all the pitfalls that come with 360 feedback. Write me, write some feedback on paper for me. When you're asking someone to deliver it intentionally, where they think it through and they deliver it, unfortunately, it goes through their filter and can be completely morphed into something that really has nothing to do with you, or is a misconception of you. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean that method is not valuable. It's essential that we use every method we can get to gain self-awareness, and there is value in that, in any of these methods, any methods you can think of that you've probably tried or labeled as ways to gain self-awareness, like a 360 or asking for feedback, are all good. But you're going to get a filtered, manipulated response that is highly subjective to that person and their level of awareness of both self and others. This version, where we just observe the behavior, the words that come out of their mouths, the body language, the reading the room, even the tension in a room. Your observation may be when I've noticed through this week, I've met with 20 people, and at least 6 of them seem to be very tense. around a particular subject or around, and if it's something that is insightful for you, like saying, it was at that point when I started to talk about this subject. Maybe a clue. Maybe when you're on that topic, you become a little bit intimidating. It could just be your you know temperature rises and they're picking it up. You'll see the body language, them backing off or doing this or sort of maybe looking around or maybe cutting it short or uh, so what I'm saying here is this version where you observe others' behavior without them spelling it out for you, you get something raw and unprocessed and therefore authentic and true and genuine. Someone's body language is likely or less likely to be manipulated. Some people will manipulate their body language. And so they know that they're playing the body language game, so they'll make sure they do the body language that they want to put forth. But most people are going to give you attitudes, body language, words, um, facial expressions, energy that they're not monitoring. They're just being. And that might be the truest form you can get of feedback from another person about yourself is the actual ripple effect you're having on them, the literal vibrations that are, bouncing off that person coming from you. And so in that way, it's probably the most powerful kind of feedback you can get is someone's observation and then immediate physiological, that's not going to be easy for me today, physiological reaction, their natural reaction to you versus their processed thought about you. So that's as far as I'm taking this one today. I certainly see myself returning to this one. So the show has been and always is Career Talk with Wes, a show about all things career. And as you can see from today's topic, it's a show with a certain amount of depth because I'm going to always be talking about how awareness is a key component. Self-awareness, awareness of others. Awareness brings change. And we can't change what we can't see. And we can't grow and move forward and do new things without being willing to change or finding out how to change. So the show's on every weekday at noon Eastern, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube for now. There's a podcast underway, so you'll soon start to see the podcast version out there or hear the podcast version out there. And with that, I'm going to wish you all a wonderful day, and I'll see you on the next episode.